Let me first compliment CII for this very unique initiative, and let me compliment all the young entrepreneurs and the unicorns who won awards today. So let me go back to 2015. I think it was, CII, which had Krish Gopalakrishnan was then the president, and he said, CB got in touch with me and they said that they want to do something on innovation. They could not make much breakthrough on startups, etc. So they came to me, and Chris and CB came to me, and then we started working on this. And subsequently, I went to the Prime Minister and said that we want to do the Startup India movement, and the Prime Minister made me do about 4 or 5 presentations. He had a number of questions. And his basic argument was that you have to make things very easy and simple for them. So we actually, because if you had got into the Inspector Raj, it would have been very difficult. So we made the labor department issue a circular saying that none of these labor laws will apply to startups. And then we had to work around a fund of funds, many things we did. And we went back to the Prime Minister the 5th time that I made the presentation. He finally agreed. And then we did this launch in January 2016. And we put only the startups with the Prime Minister. Nobody else shared this dais with him. And we had a whole day, number of top entrepreneurs had come from across the world. And it was a very fascinating launch, actually, that particular day, and it's grown over a period of time. It's grown because, since then, if I look at it, funding has increased 15x, the number of incubators have increased 9x, all that has happened. But we are number 3 in the startup movement, as was said in that presentation. But, we must be very clear that we have to aim to be the #1 startup nation in the world. And I've just actually returned from Stanford, and I must say that the energy there is incredible. And we have to create even a greater energy for that. And there's no reason why anything should hold us back, because we've created a digital movement which is more powerful than anything else in the world. No other country has that kind of digital movement. And many of the startups which have become unicorns, they've become because they are national assets. Actually, unicorns are all national assets to us. And, because we built the digital identity, we created 550 million bank accounts between 2015 and 17. We seeded Aadhaar and the mobile number. And then you will see that a number of young unicorns, all this MobiKwik, Lending Card, Pine Lab, started doing lending because they could look at the payment history. And then you had a number of young startups like Zerodha, Grow, Upstock, who could take stock markets to Tier 2, Tier 3 cities, and they control over 30% of the stock markets. And then you have a number of young unicorns like GoDigit, Acco, who started giving insurance. So what India has actually seen is that fast payments, 30 seconds, we give an insurance policy in 1 minute, all on the go, on the mobile. And that's why even a company like Jio could acquire 450 million customers in 10 months' time. Because, the cost of acquisition of a customer in India has fallen from about $150 with a lot of paperwork to less than $1 in India. That has been the transformation of India. But we still have a long way to go. We must aim to be the #1 startup movement in the world. And that would require us a lot of effort. My advice to all startups would be focus on corporate governance, and focus on corporate governance. That is really the key. Because a startup which is gone on to become a unicorn must go on to become a big company in the future. That should be the ambition. And that can only happen if you have good governance, if you have proper audits, if you have all the norms of good governance. Without that, you will not be able to grow. You will collapse because you've done innovation. Most startup entrepreneurs are all innovators. They are top-class innovators. And therefore, in the quest for great innovation, in the quest for great disruption, they lose out on corporate governance. It's very important to have the best, the finest young people on good CFOs, good auditors, all that put in place as you grow and expand. That's very critical, otherwise you'll land up into a debacle. And the key to India's success of becoming the #1 nation of startup is our ability to do good corporate governance, and #2, to ensure that Indian insurance companies, Indian pension funds, Indian large families, Indian large companies all invest in our startup movement. India cannot grow on the back of foreign money coming in all the time. India's startup movement must be driven by India's finances. The deep tech has to be driven by India's startups. And deep tech requires that India's opened up many areas. India's opened up, the Prime Minister himself opened up the space sector. He opened up the geospatial sector. He opened up the drone sector. All these sectors have been opened up. We've now put a huge emphasis on artificial intelligence. This new cabinet note which has been approved of 10,000 crores. Imagine you're going to put GPUs in many colleges, universities. You'll have high computing power. No other country has the data which India has, the vast amount of data. And you need young people to do algorithms. So to my mind, the future lies in our ability to get into many sunrise areas of growth. Look at EV, look at battery storage. We need disruption in all these areas. Look at green hydrogen, look at a range of quantum computing, look at AI, and all these startups have to be driven on the power of AI. AI will become critical. That will be fundamental to the startup. It will be the foundational technology on which you will grow and expand. And therefore, all this is critical. My belief is that manufacturing, deep tech, all this is critical. It requires a lot of patient capital. And India should, like we created a fund of funds for startups, a 10,000 crore fund of funds for startup, we should really, the country together with the private sector should think of creating a $5 billion fund for, you need patient capital. And therefore you need to create a fund of funds. And fund of funds will then support a number of venture capital funds to do due diligence and support young deep tech startups. That is important in the long run. 50% of our population is now women. You can't grow. If India wants to be a $10 trillion economy and wants to be a $35 trillion economy by 2047, you can't grow without women. And women to be in leadership position, and that's why in G20, we convinced everybody in the world that it has to be women-led development. And in the case of startup, it has to be women disruption startup movement. A huge amount of emphasis has to be paid. And today you had one lady entrepreneur getting an award. Next time, Sibi, you must have 10 women entrepreneurs getting awards from here. I mean, women are outperforming men in every single walk of life in India. Every competitive examination from 10th standard to the IAS, women do better than men. My own college, St. Stephen's College, when I graduated in economics honors, it was a male bastion, all male bastion. There were no girls. By the time my daughter passed out, 81% of the students were all girls on merit. And the principal said that if this college has to remain co-educational, you have to give 10% extra marks to boys. Otherwise, there'll be no boys in the class. So, and later I discovered that in many colleges of Bangalore, they actually give 10% extra marks to boys to remain a co-educational college. So, women are doing much better than boys, and I think in the next 4 to 5 years, you'll have a huge amount of disruption from women entrepreneurs, and they'll do remarkably well in many areas. I mean, many areas, including defense. I mean, look at Vrinda Kapoor. She does remarkably well in a defense startup. So many startups you'll see will be driven by women, and they'll do far better than all of you.